My brother-in-law locked my daughter in a basement storage room and told her freaks belong in cages when she had a panic attack at a family barbecue. When I demanded we leave immediately, my wife said he's just stressed from work. She needs to toughen up. When he laughed and said maybe sometime in the dark we'll fix her, I knew exactly what I had to do. My name is David, I'm 35, and until 8 months ago, I thought I understood what family meant. I've been married to my wife Sarah for 9 years, and we had one daughter together, Lily, who's 10 years old. Lily is autistic and has severe anxiety, but she's also the most amazing kid you could ever meet, brilliant, funny, and sees the world in ways that constantly surprise me. Sarah's family had always been challenging. Her older brother Marcus was particularly difficult. He's one of those guys who thinks sensitivity is weakness, who believes mental health issues are just excuses for not being tough enough. He works in construction and carries this old school mentality that if you can't handle life's difficulties, you're somehow defective. Sarah's parents, Linda and Robert, weren't much better. They'd raised their kids with this suck it up and deal with it philosophy that left no room for understanding neurodivergence or mental health. They saw Lily's autism as something we were enabling rather than supporting. For years, I'd been trying to navigate these family relationships. Sarah would always insist that they loved Lily, they just didn't understand. She'd make excuses, that's just how Marcus is, or they're from a different generation. I went along with it because I loved Sarah and wanted to keep the peace, but I was always on edge during family gatherings, watching for signs that Lily was getting overwhelmed. The incident that changed everything happened at Marcus and his wife Jennifer's annual 4th of July barbecue. They live in this big house with a finished basement that Marcus had converted into what he called his man cave, pool table, bar, mounted deer heads, the whole stereotypical setup. We'd been there for about 2 hours when I noticed Lily starting to show signs of sensory overload. The music was loud, there were kids running around screaming, and the smell of cigarette smoke from some of the guests was clearly bothering her. She'd found a quiet corner and was stimming with her fidget cube, trying to self-regulate. That's when Marcus noticed her. "What's wrong with her now?" he said loudly enough for half the party to hear. "She looks like a robot over there." Sarah shot me a look that said please don't make a scene, so I tried to redirect. "She's just taking a break from all the noise. She'll be fine." But Marcus wasn't done. He walked over to Lily, who was clearly becoming more distressed as he approached. "Hey, weird kid," he said, and I saw Lily flinch. "This is a party. You can't just sit in the corner being a freak." I was already getting up when Lily started having a full panic attack. If you've never seen an autistic child in complete meltdown, it's heartbreaking. She was crying, rocking back and forth, and making these distressed sounds that anyone with basic human empathy would recognize as genuine pain. Marcus's response was to grab her arm and pull her toward the basement stairs. "You want to act like an animal? You can go downstairs where no one has to look at you." I was across the yard in seconds, but Marcus was already dragging her down the stairs. "Let go of her right now," I said, but he ignored me. By the time I got downstairs, he'd shoved Lily into his storage room, basically a windowless closet where he kept holiday decorations and old paint cans. "Freaks belong in cages," he said, starting to close the door while Lily screamed inside. "Maybe sometime in the dark we'll fix her." I've never experienced rage like that in my life. I pushed Marcus away from the door so hard he stumbled backward and hit the pool table. Lily was hyperventilating in the storage room, surrounded by cobwebs and darkness, completely terrified. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I shouted, gathering Lily in my arms. She was shaking so badly I could feel it through her whole body. Marcus straightened up, looking pleased with himself. "Kid needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her problems. Real life isn't going to accommodate her little episodes." I carried Lily upstairs, trying to calm her down while looking for Sarah. I found her in the kitchen with Linda and Jennifer, and when I told them what had happened, Sarah's response made my blood run cold. "David, please don't overreact. Marcus is just stressed from that big project at work. You know how he gets." I stared at my wife, holding our traumatized daughter, unable to believe what I was hearing. "He locked her in a dark closet and called her a freak. He told her she belongs in a cage." Linda chimed in with, "Maybe if you didn't coddle her so much, she'd be able to handle normal social situations." "She's 10 years old and autistic," I said. "She doesn't need to handle being abused by her uncle." Sarah sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. "He's family, David. She needs to toughen up if she's going to function in the real world." That's when Marcus appeared at the top of the basement stairs, laughing. "Did the princess tell Daddy what happened? Maybe next time she'll think twice before ruining everyone's good time with her drama." I looked at my wife, waiting for her to say something, anything, to defend our daughter. Instead, she looked embarrassed and said quietly, "Lily, can you apologize to Uncle Marcus for causing a scene?" I grabbed our things and walked out without another word, Lily still clinging to me and crying. Sarah followed us to the car, but only to argue. "You're being completely dramatic," she said. "It's not like he actually hurt her." "He traumatized her," I said. "And you're taking his side." "I'm not taking anyone's side. I'm trying to keep this family together." "By sacrificing our daughter?" The drive home was silent except for Lily's occasional sniffles from the back seat. When we got home, I helped her shower and get into comfortable pajamas, then sat with her while she calmed down. It took hours before she could even tell me what had happened in that storage room. "Daddy, why did Uncle Marcus say I belong in a cage? Am I really a freak?" I had to excuse myself to cry in the bathroom. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that some adults are just cruel? How do you tell her that even family members can be monsters? That night, after Lily finally fell asleep, Sarah and I had the biggest fight of our marriage. She kept insisting that I was overreacting, that Marcus didn't mean it maliciously, that I needed to think about the bigger picture. "What bigger picture?" I asked. "Our daughter was locked in a dark room and called names by her uncle, and your response is to tell her to apologize? You don't understand family dynamics," Sarah said. "If we cut off Marcus, we lose everyone. Mom and Dad will side with him, Jennifer will be caught in the middle, and suddenly we're the bad guys. We're already the bad guys in their eyes for having an autistic daughter. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time any of them made an effort to understand Lily's needs? When have they ever supported her instead of treating her like an inconvenience?" Sarah couldn't answer that, because the answer was never. Over the next few days, I watched Lily carefully for signs of trauma. She was having nightmares, refused to go in any small spaces, and kept asking if Uncle Marcus was going to put her in a cage again. I made an appointment with her therapist, Dr. Patricia Chen, who specialized in autism and childhood trauma. Dr. Chen was horrified when I described what had happened. "That level of deliberate cruelty toward an autistic child is absolutely unacceptable," she said. "Lily's going to need time to recover from this, and she needs to know that the adults in her life will protect her from further harm." What if my wife's family doesn't see it that way? Then you have a choice to make about what's more important, your daughter's mental health and safety, or maintaining relationships with people who abuse her. When I got home, Sarah was on the phone with Marcus. I could hear him laughing about something, completely unbothered by what he'd done to our daughter. Sarah saw my face and quickly ended the call. "He feels bad about what happened," she said. "He wants us to come to dinner this weekend so he can apologize to Lily." "Absolutely not. David, he's trying to make things right. By inviting us back into the same environment where he abused our daughter? No. We're done with family gatherings until he gets professional help and makes a real apology. You can't just cut off my entire family. Watch me." That evening, I started researching our options. I learned about something called parental alienation, when one parent undermines the other's relationship with their child. But what was happening here felt like the reverse. Sarah was alienating herself from Lily by consistently prioritizing her family's feelings over our daughter's well-being. I also started documenting everything. I wrote down exactly what had happened at the barbecue, took photos of Lily's stress-related eczema flare-up that followed the incident, and started keeping a record of every interaction with Sarah's family. The situation escalated the following weekend when Marcus and Jennifer showed up at our house unannounced. Sarah had apparently told them they could come by to clear the air with Lily. I was in the garage when they arrived, and by the time I got inside, Marcus was already cornering Lily in the living room. "Come on, kiddo," he was saying. "Uncle Marcus was just having a bad day. You know I don't really think you're a freak, right?" Lily was backed against the wall, clearly terrified. When she saw me, she ran over and hid behind my legs. "Get out," I said. Marcus laughed. "Sarah invited us. This is between family. You're not family to her anymore. Not after what you did." It was a joke that got out of hand. The kid needs to learn to take a joke. Locking a 10-year-old in a dark closet and calling her names isn't a joke. It's abuse. That's when Sarah came out of the kitchen and took Marcus's side again. "David, please. He's trying to apologize." That wasn't an apology. That was him minimizing what he did and blaming Lily for being too sensitive. The argument that followed was brutal. Marcus called me an overprotective father who was raising a defective child. Jennifer said I was being unreasonable and that family should forgive family. Sarah accused me of being controlling and trying to isolate her from her relatives. Through it all, Lily stayed pressed against my leg, trembling. "Everyone out," I said. "Now." "This is my house too," Sarah said. "And that's my daughter you're all traumatizing. Out." After they left, I found Lily hiding in her closet, having another panic attack. It took an hour to calm her down, and she slept in my bed that night because she was too scared to be alone. The next morning, I called a family lawyer. Patricia Valdez had been practicing family law for 15 years and had seen cases involving child welfare and custody disputes. When I explained the situation, she was immediately concerned. "What you're describing could constitute emotional abuse," she said. "And your wife's failure to protect your daughter from repeated trauma is equally troubling from a custody standpoint. I don't want to take Lily away from her mother. I just want to protect her." Sometimes those things become mutually exclusive. If your wife continues to prioritize her family's feelings over your daughter's safety, you may need to consider more drastic measures. That conversation was a wake-up call. I loved Sarah, but I loved Lily more, and my primary job as a father was to keep her safe. I tried one more time to get through to Sarah. I showed her articles about autism and trauma, research about the long-term effects of emotional abuse on children, testimonials from other parents who dealt with similar situations. She dismissed all of it. You're being dramatic, she said. Marcus didn't hit her or molest her. He was just trying to teach her a lesson. What lesson? That she deserves to be locked up and called names for having a disability? That the world isn't going to accommodate her every need. She's 10, Sarah. She doesn't need to learn that lesson from her uncle traumatizing her. 2 weeks later, Sarah's parents called and demanded that we bring Lily to their house for Linda's birthday. When I refused, Linda called me directly. You're turning that child into a victim, she said. She needs to learn that life is hard and people aren't always going to be nice to her. She's learning that from you people just fine. We love Lily, but we're not going to walk on eggshells around her forever. No one's asking you to walk on eggshells. We're asking you to treat her with basic human decency. The final straw came 3 weeks later. Sarah had been increasingly cold and distant, clearly resentful about being cut off from her family. She started making subtle digs about Lily's autism, suggesting that maybe I was enabling her too much, that maybe Marcus had a point about toughening her up. Then one evening, she came home and announced that she'd invited everyone over for dinner that weekend. Including Marcus, she said. He's really sorry, and it's been long enough. Lily needs to move on. No. It's not your decision to make alone. When it comes to protecting our daughter from abuse, yes it is. I'm her mother. Then act like it. That night, after Lily was asleep, I made the hardest decision of my life. I couldn't keep fighting Sarah and her family while trying to protect Lily. Something had to give, and it wasn't going to be my daughter's well-being. I called my sister Emma, who lived in Denver. We'd always been close, and she'd met Lily several times and understood her needs. When I explained what was happening, she was horrified. Bring her here, Emma said immediately. Stay as long as you need to. I've got space, and there are excellent autism resources here. I spent the next few days making arrangements. I contacted Lily's school and therapist, researched schools in Denver, and quietly started packing our essential belongings. I also withdrew money from our savings account, money I'd earned and had every right to access. On Friday morning, after Sarah left for work, I sat Lily down for the hardest conversation of my life. Sweetie, how would you feel about going on an adventure with Daddy? Just you and me? Her face lit up. Like a vacation? Sort of. Aunt Emma invited us to stay with her in Denver for a while. You'd get to see the mountains and maybe go to some new museums. What about Mommy? I chose my words carefully. Mommy and I are having some disagreements about what's best for our family. I think it would be good for us to take a break and visit Aunt Emma while we figure things out. Will Uncle Marcus be there? No, baby. Uncle Marcus will never hurt you again. I promise. We left that afternoon. I left Sarah a note explaining where we were going and why, along with Patricia Valdez's contact information. I told her that if she wanted to work things out, she could start by acknowledging that what her family had done to Lily was wrong and getting therapy to understand why she'd failed to protect our daughter. The drive to Denver took 8 hours. Lily was excited about the adventure aspect, and we stopped at interesting places along the way. But I spent most of the drive questioning whether I was doing the right thing, whether there was some other way to handle the situation. Then Lily said something that confirmed I'd made the right choice. Daddy, are we really never going to see Uncle Marcus again? Not unless he gets help and learns how to treat you properly. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Good. I was always scared he was going to put me in another cage. My heart broke. She'd been living in fear for weeks, and I'd been so focused on trying to maintain family relationships that I hadn't fully grasped how traumatized she was. Emma was waiting for us when we arrived. She'd taken time off work and had transformed her guest room into a kid-friendly space, complete with sensory-friendly lighting and some of Lily's favorite snacks. Welcome to your new adventure, kiddo, she said, giving Lily a gentle hug. Want to see your room? That first week was an adjustment. Lily kept asking when we were going home, and I had to keep explaining that this was our home for now. But she was also visibly more relaxed without the constant tension of waiting for the next family gathering or cruel comment. Sarah called constantly at first, alternating between begging me to come home and threatening legal action. She'd gotten a lawyer of her own and was claiming I'd kidnapped Lily, though Patricia quickly shut that down by pointing out that there was no custody order and I had every right as Lily's father to relocate with her. The turning point came when Sarah's lawyer contacted Patricia with an offer. If I brought Lily back immediately, Sarah would agree to limited contact with her family. Only on major holidays, and Marcus would have to apologize first. Patricia presented the offer to me, but I turned it down. An apology from someone who locked my daughter in a closet and called her a freak isn't enough, I said. And limited contact still means exposing her to people who see her autism as a character flaw. What would it take for you to consider reconciliation? I thought about it carefully. Sarah would need to acknowledge that her family's treatment of Lily was abusive. She'd need to cut off contact with Marcus entirely until he got professional help and made genuine amends. She'd need to go to therapy herself to understand why she prioritized her family's feelings over our daughter's safety. And she'd need to move here to Denver, away from their influence. That's a lot to ask. It's a lot less than what they put my daughter through. Sarah's response was predictable. She accused me of making unreasonable demands, of trying to control her, of using Lily as a weapon against her family. She claimed I was brainwashing our daughter and turning her against her mother. But here's what she didn't understand: Lily was thriving in Denver. Emma had helped me find an excellent school with a strong autism support program. Lily was seeing a new therapist who specialized in trauma recovery. She was making friends, sleeping through the night again, and slowly regaining her confidence. Most importantly, she felt safe. 3 months after we'd moved to Denver, Lily said something that broke my heart and validated my decision at the same time. "Daddy, I don't want to go back to Uncle Marcus's house, but I miss Mommy. Why can't Mommy come here and visit us?" I'd been wondering the same thing. Sarah could have visited any time, but she'd refused, claiming that coming to Denver would be giving in to my demands. She wanted us to come back to her terms, in her environment, surrounded by her family. That's when I realized that Sarah had made her choice. She'd chosen her family's comfort over her daughter's well-being, and she was continuing to make that choice every day. I filed for divorce and custody 4 months after moving to Denver. Patricia had built a strong case documenting the abuse Lily had suffered and Sarah's failure to protect her. We had therapy records, school reports showing Lily's improvement since leaving the toxic environment, and most damning of all, recorded phone calls where Sarah continued to minimize what had happened and insist that Lily needed to get over it. The custody hearing was scheduled for early December. Sarah flew to Denver with her parents and Marcus, apparently determined to show the court that her family was united and supportive. It was exactly the wrong move. During her testimony, Sarah's lawyer tried to paint me as an overprotective father who was alienating Lily from her mother's family. But when the judge asked Sarah directly whether she believed Marcus's actions were appropriate, she hesitated. I think maybe he went too far," she said finally. "But David is blowing it completely out of proportion." "How so?" the judge asked. "Marcus was just trying to teach Lily that she can't have a meltdown every time things don't go her way. By locking her in a dark closet? It wasn't. It was a storage room, not a closet." I watched the judge's expression change as Sarah continued to minimize what had happened. When Patricia presented the evidence, photos of Lily's stress-related symptoms, therapy records documenting her trauma, recordings of Sarah defending Marcus's actions, it was devastating. But the moment that sealed the case was when the judge asked to speak with Lily privately. Court-appointed child advocates had prepared her for this conversation, and she was able to clearly explain what had happened and how it made her feel. When the judge returned to the courtroom, his decision was swift. This court finds that the child's father has acted in her best interests by removing her from a harmful environment. The mother's continued defense of abusive behavior and failure to prioritize the child's emotional well-being is deeply concerning. I was awarded full custody with supervised visitation for Sarah. She could see Lily, but only in a neutral location with a court-appointed supervisor present, and only after completing a parenting course focused on understanding autism and trauma. Sarah was devastated by the ruling, and her family was furious. Marcus actually had to be escorted from the courtroom after he started yelling about activist judges and liberal nonsense. Linda blamed me for destroying the family, and Robert muttered something about lawyers and money. But the person I was most concerned about was Lily. That evening, back at Emma's house, I sat her down to explain what the judge had decided. "So I get to stay here with you and Aunt Emma?" she asked. "For as long as you want. This is your home now. And I don't have to see Uncle Marcus anymore?" "Not unless you decide you want to when you're much older." She thought about this for a moment, then asked, "Can I still talk to Mommy sometimes?" "Of course, baby. The judge said Mommy can visit you, but there will be a nice lady there to make sure everyone feels safe." "Will Mommy be mad at me?" This was the question I'd been dreading. "Mommy might be sad or confused, but none of this is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Daddy just wanted to make sure you felt safe and happy." The first supervised visit happened 2 weeks later. Sarah had flown back to Denver, and we met at a family services center with a trained supervisor present. Lily was nervous, but she was also excited to see her mother. The visit went better than I'd expected. Sarah was clearly trying to be on her best behavior, and she seemed genuinely happy to see Lily. They played games, talked about school, and Sarah even asked thoughtful questions about Lily's new interests. But when the supervisor stepped out for a moment, Sarah's mask slipped. "Lily, Daddy took you away from Mommy because he was angry. Do you think that was fair?" I was watching through a one-way window, and I saw Lily's face change. She looked confused and scared. Daddy said we came here so I'd be safe from Uncle Marcus." "Uncle Marcus wasn't going to hurt you, sweetheart. He was just having a bad day." The supervisor returned before the conversation could go further, but the damage was done. Lily was quiet and withdrawn for the rest of the visit. That evening, she climbed into my lap while I was reading and said, "Daddy, was I bad for not wanting to see Uncle Marcus anymore?" "No, baby. You were very brave for telling me how scared you felt. Mommy said Uncle Marcus wouldn't really hurt me." I chose my words carefully. Sometimes adults see things differently. But I believe you when you tell me something scared you, and I will always try to keep you safe. After that visit, Sarah's calls became more hostile. She accused me of coaching Lily, of filling her head with lies about her family. She claimed I was using our daughter as a pawn in some vindictive game against her relatives. But the truth was simpler: I was protecting my child from people who had hurt her and from adults who couldn't acknowledge that hurt. Sarah couldn't separate her loyalty to her family from her responsibility to our daughter, and that made her a danger to Lily's emotional well-being. The supervised visits continued for several months, but they became increasingly strained. Sarah couldn't help herself from making subtle digs about my decisions or trying to get Lily to ask about coming home. The supervisor documented everything, and eventually recommended that visits be reduced to once monthly due to Sarah's continued attempts to manipulate the situation. That's when Sarah finally snapped. She called me at work one day, screaming about how I'd stolen her daughter and destroyed her life. "Marcus barely touched her," she yelled. "You've turned a 5-minute incident into this massive trauma that's ruined everything. He locked her in a dark room and called her a freak, Sarah. And you've spent months convincing her that she's some kind of victim. She was fine before you filled her head with all this therapy nonsense. She was having nightmares and panic attacks. Because you told her to. You planted those ideas in her head." I hung up and immediately called Patricia. This call was recorded, like all our communications, and it would become crucial evidence later. 2 weeks after that phone call, Sarah and Marcus showed up at Lily's school in Denver. They didn't try to take her, but they waited outside and approached her when she came out for recess. Lily saw them through the playground fence and immediately ran to her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, crying and saying that Uncle Marcus was there and she was scared. The school went into protective mode, calling both me and the police. By the time I arrived, Marcus and Sarah were in custody for violating the court order. They'd driven 12 hours to Denver specifically to circumvent the supervised visitation requirements. The incident was traumatic for Lily, but it also proved everything I'd been saying about Sarah's family. Even faced with a court order, even after months of legal proceedings, they couldn't respect boundaries or prioritize Lily's emotional safety. That night, as I was tucking Lily into bed, she said something that both broke my heart and made me proud. "Daddy, I told Mrs. Rodriguez that I felt scared and needed help, and she believed me right away. That's exactly what you should do, baby. You did great. At Uncle Marcus's house, when I said I was scared, nobody believed me except you. I will always believe you when you tell me how you feel. Promise? Promise." The school incident was the final nail in the coffin for Sarah's custody case. The judge revoked her visitation rights entirely pending a psychological evaluation and completion of extensive therapy programs. Marcus was charged with violating a court order and harassment. But the most important development was how Lily responded to everything. Instead of being traumatized by seeing Marcus again, she was empowered by how quickly the adults around her had protected her. She'd asked for help and received it immediately, which reinforced that she was safe in her new environment. Now, 8 months after we left Washington, Lily is thriving in ways I never imagined possible. She's confident, happy, and secure in the knowledge that the adults in her life will protect her. She's made close friends at school, joined the art club, and even started taking karate lessons to build her self-confidence. Emma has been incredible through all of this. She's become the supportive aunt figure that Lily needed, someone who understands her autism and celebrates her unique perspective rather than trying to change her. We've found our own little family unit that works. Sarah has completed the court-ordered therapy programs, and her therapist reports that she's making progress in understanding how her family's dynamics were harmful. She's even acknowledged, in writing, that Marcus's actions were abusive and that she failed to protect Lily. But acknowledgement isn't the same as change. In her most recent letter to the court, Sarah still maintains that I overreacted and that with proper boundaries, her family could have a healthy relationship with Lily. She doesn't seem to understand that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. The judge is considering allowing supervised phone calls between Sarah and Lily, but only if Lily wants them. When her court advocate asked her about it, Lily thought for a long time before answering. "I miss Mommy sometimes," she said. "But I don't want to talk to her if she's going to ask me to see Uncle Marcus or make me feel bad for being scared." Out of the mouths of babes. Marcus never got the help he needed. He pleaded no contest to the harassment charges and paid a fine, but he's never acknowledged that what he did was wrong. According to mutual acquaintances, he still refers to Lily as that weird kid and blames me for brainwashing her against the family. Linda and Robert have made a few attempts to reach out, claiming they want to rebuild their relationship with Lily. But their letters always include subtle digs at my parenting and suggestions that Lily needs to move past what happened. They fundamentally don't understand that you can't rebuild trust by minimizing the damage you caused. People sometimes ask me if I regret how I handled everything, if I think there was some other way to resolve the situation that wouldn't have blown up Lily's relationship with her mother's family. Here's what I tell them. My daughter was locked in a dark room and called a freak by her uncle. When I asked my wife to protect her, she told me to let it go. What exactly was I supposed to compromise on? I don't regret prioritizing my daughter's safety and emotional well-being over maintaining toxic family relationships. I don't regret showing her that she deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. I don't regret teaching her that family isn't just about blood, it's about who shows up for you when you need them most. Could I have handled some things differently? Maybe. But I'm not perfect. I'm just a father who loves his daughter and wasn't willing to sacrifice her mental health for the sake of keeping the peace. The most important thing is that Lily knows she's safe. She knows that the adults in her life will believe her when she says she's scared or hurt. She knows that her autism isn't something to be ashamed of or fixed, but simply a different way of experiencing the world. Last week, Lily brought home a school assignment where she had to write about someone who inspires her. I expected her to write about a celebrity or historical figure, but when I read it, I started crying. I admire my dad because he keeps me safe and listens when I tell him how I feel. When some people were being mean to me, he took me somewhere safe where people understand that my brain works differently and that's okay. My dad taught me that I never have to let anyone hurt me, even if they're family. He's my hero. I have that essay framed on my desk at work, right next to a photo of Lily at her new school's Autism Awareness Day, beaming with pride as she explains her sensory processing differences to other kids. Some days are still hard. Some days I wonder if I made the right choice, if there was some other way to protect Lily without losing half her family. But then I look at my daughter, really look at her, and I see a kid who feels safe in her own skin, who knows she's loved and accepted exactly as she is. And I know I made the right choice. The restraining order against Marcus is permanent. Sarah has completed her therapy programs and may eventually earn supervised visitation if Lily chooses to pursue that relationship. But regardless of what happens with her mother, Lily knows that she has a support system that will never ask her to endure abuse for the sake of family unity. Emma and I have started looking at houses in Denver. We want to give Lily the stability of knowing this is her permanent home, surrounded by people who celebrate her differences rather than trying to change her. Family isn't about blood. It's about love, support, protection, and acceptance. Lily has all of those things now, and that's what matters. The other day, Lily asked me what happened to the storage room where Uncle Marcus locked her up. It's still there, I said. But you never have to see it again. She thought about that for a moment, then said, good. That place was for storing broken things, and I'm not broken. No, sweetheart. You're not broken. You're perfect exactly as you are.